The night sky above Millfield, Ohio, lit up with streaks of blue and orange. Peter Collins was driving home when he saw it. The object cut through the clouds and crashed in the cornfield ahead with a thunderous boom. The ground shook beneath his truck. He slammed on his brakes and grabbed his phone. Peter was a major in the Army. He knew protocol for unusual events. But this was beyond unusual. This was something else. "This is Major Collins. I need a team at Henderson Farm. Now." Within an hour, the area was filled with military vehicles. Soldiers formed a perimeter around the smoking crater. Scientists in protective gear approached the wreckage carefully. Among them was Dr. Olivia Martinez. She had studied possible alien life for years. Now she might finally see proof. "Stay behind me," Peter told her as they approached the crash site. The object wasn't a meteor. It was clearly a ship. Its metal shell gleamed with an unusual purple tint despite the damage. Steam hissed from cracks in its hull. "My God," Olivia whispered. A section of the ship suddenly slid open. Soldiers raised their weapons. Peter held up his hand, signaling them to wait. A figure emerged. It stood on two legs but was definitely not human. Its skin was pale blue with a pattern of darker spots. Large eyes blinked in the floodlights. It had 4 arms, each ending in hands with 3 long fingers. The creature collapsed. 2 more similar beings appeared behind it, also looking injured. "They need help," Olivia said, rushing forward despite Peter's warning. The aliens spoke. Not with mouths, but somehow their words appeared directly in everyone's minds. "We are Varaxians. We come in peace. We seek refuge." As medical teams worked to help the injured aliens, more government officials arrived. Within days, the news was worldwide. Earth had made first contact. The Varaxians recovered in a special facility. They explained they were scouts from something called the Galactic Union, a group of species that worked together across many star systems. "Why did you crash?" Peter asked during one meeting. The lead Varaxian, who called itself Zell, looked troubled. "We were attacked by draconids. They are aggressive. They expand by taking worlds from others. We were studying your planet when they found us." Olivia frowned. "Are these draconids coming here?" "Yes," Zell said. "They have likely already set course for your system. They consider species without faster-than-light travel to be primitive. They will take your resources. They will take your world." World leaders gathered in emergency meetings. The Varaxians offered help. "We can bring you into the Galactic Union," Zell explained to a room of serious-faced humans. "We can provide protection, technology, trade, but you must follow Union laws." "What kind of laws?" asked the American president. "Many," said Zell, "but most important for humans will be the combat restrictions. Your species has concerning methods of warfare." Peter leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Zell's large eyes blinked slowly. "We observed your history before approaching. Your tactics in battle are considered barbaric by Union standards. The Galactic Union has strict rules about acceptable combat methods." "But these draconids don't follow your rules," Peter said. "No," admitted Zell. "They do not, which is why we fight them. But we do so according to civilized protocols." Olivia looked concerned. "And if we want your help, we have to fight their way too?" "Yes," said Zell. "The Union vote will be unanimous on this. Your species must agree to combat restrictions or we cannot bring you into the protective alliance." The room fell silent. Earth needed allies against the coming threat. But the price would be giving up their own ways of fighting. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Union. Humans learned quickly. They used alien technology to build better ships, cure diseases, and clean their planet. But they were never treated as equals. Heather Powell knew this better than most. She used to command a Navy destroyer before first contact. Now she represented Earth on the Union Defense Council. Today she sat in a large round room with 20 alien species. The room smelled like mint and metal. A hologram in the center showed Union ships fighting Draconid forces near a distant star. The Draconids have taken 3 more systems, said Admiral Vex, a tall insect-like being. We must increase our defense fleet. Heather raised her hand. She had been raising her hand for an hour. Finally, Admiral Vex pointed at her. The human wishes to speak. Earth has 15 ships ready to join the fight, Heather said. Our pilots are trained on Union systems. The room went quiet. Several aliens looked away. That will not be necessary, Admiral Vex said. Human vessels are not suited for this conflict. Again, always the same answer. Humans could build ships, provide resources, even host Union bases, but they could not fight. After the meeting, Heather walked down the shining hallway of the space station. A voice called from behind, Commander Powell. She turned to see Klazar, a senior strategist from a species called the Tellarites. His skin was gray and smooth. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Walk with me, he said. They entered a garden area, where plants from 100 worlds grew together. Klazar touched a control on his wrist. This creates privacy, he explained. No one can hear us now. Heather waited. Klazar seemed nervous. You wonder why humans are excluded from combat, he said. Yes, we can help. We want to help. Klazar sighed, a whistling sound through his small mouth. The Council fears human combat methods. Your species approaches warfare differently. What does that mean? Heather asked. Most Union species fight with specific rules. Surrender is common. Sacrifice is rare. Pain avoidance is standard. Klazar looked directly at her. Humans do not follow these patterns. That's not fair. We signed your combat laws. On paper, yes, but the Council has studied your history, your psychology. Klazar touched a plant, making it glow softly. Did you know that human soldiers will continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate most species? That you create weapons from anything available? That you use tactics considered disturbing? Heather crossed her arms. We agreed to follow Union protocols. The Council believes humans cannot truly change their nature. It is safer to keep you away from combat. An alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. They rushed back to the command center. On the main screen, a Union official spoke urgently. Draconid forces have bypassed our defenses. They attack Alpha Centauri. Heather felt cold. Alpha Centauri was Earth's first colony. 20,000 humans lived there. How long until defense ships arrive? Admiral Vex asked. 3 days at maximum speed. The colony will be lost by then, someone said. Heather stepped forward. Let me send our ships. They can reach Alpha Centauri in 1 day. Admiral Vex shook his head. Union protocol forbids. Those are human lives, Heather shouted. The room went silent. Showing strong emotion was considered inappropriate in council chambers. I understand your concern, Admiral Vex said carefully, but we must follow protocol. Union ships will respond according to procedure. Heather left the room without being dismissed. She went straight to her private communication terminal. She called Earth's Defense Command. This is Commander Powell, she said when the connection opened. Alpha Centauri is under Draconid attack. Union forces will not arrive in time. The officer on screen nodded. Understood. What are your orders, Commander? Heather took a deep breath. What she was about to do would break Union law. She might face severe punishment, but she couldn't let those colonists die. Prepare rescue ships, quietly. I'm coming home to lead the mission myself. 3 days later, Earth's united government signed the first interstellar treaty in human history. Humans would join the Galactic Union and receive protection from the Draconid threat. In exchange, they would follow Union law, including strict limits on how humans could participate in warfare. No one realized then that this decision would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Captain Frank Delgado stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Defiant. 4 other ships flew alongside his. None of them were supposed to be here. None of them had permission from the Galactic Union. Approaching Alpha Centauri, said his navigator, Lisa Winters. Sensors show heavy fighting around the colony. Frank nodded. Show me. The screen lit up. The colony was a dome on the planet's surface. Draconid ships, sharp and red like blood, fired on it repeatedly. The dome's shields were failing. "Where are the colonists?" Frank asked. "Emergency bunkers underground," Lisa said. "But those won't last if the Draconids land." Heather Powell appeared on a side screen. She was on one of the other ships. "Captain Delgado, we have about 6 hours before any Union ships arrive. We need to evacuate as many people as possible and get out." "Understood, Commander." Frank looked at his crew. All volunteers, all willing to break Union law to save their people. "We can't beat the Draconids in a direct fight," Frank told them. "They have bigger ships and better weapons, but we have something they don't expect." "What's that, sir?" asked his weapons officer. Frank smiled. "Human creativity." Their plan was simple but forbidden by Union rules. 2 ships would create a distraction. They would release mining explosives, not weapons technically, creating a debris field that would confuse Draconid sensors. Meanwhile, the other 3 ships would land at the colony and evacuate civilians. "Begin Operation Lifeboat," Frank ordered. The ships moved into position. The explosives detonated, filling space with rocks and metal. The Draconids turned their attention to this unexpected threat. Frank's ship raced toward the colony surface. They landed roughly near an emergency exit. "Get everyone you can," Frank shouted as they ran out with breathing masks. The air here wasn't fully breathable for humans yet. Inside the colony, people were scared but organized. Children and elderly first, adults helping each other. Frank saw injuries. Draconid weapons had broken through in some areas. A young man approached. His arm was badly burned. "Captain!" "There are 30 miners trapped in the eastern tunnels. Draconids landed there." Frank tapped his communicator. "Powell, we have hostiles on the ground, eastern section." "Union rules forbid direct engagement," Heather reminded him, though her voice suggested she didn't agree with those rules. Frank looked at the scared colonists. "We're not leaving anyone behind." He gathered 10 crew members. They had no military weapons, Union restrictions, but they had tools, mining lasers, welding torches, excavation charges. "We're getting those miners," Frank told his team. "Use whatever you can, just get them out." They moved through damaged tunnels. They found Draconid soldiers, tall reptilian beings with armor and energy weapons. The humans used mining lasers to cut through walls, creating ambush points. They used excavation charges as improvised bombs. They worked as a team without needing many words, each person playing their part. One human was worth 3 Draconids in these close tunnels. The aliens weren't ready for humans who kept fighting despite injuries, who turned everyday tools into deadly weapons. 4 hours later, all 5 human ships lifted off from Alpha Centauri. They carried every surviving colonist, 187 people. No one was left behind. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, the crew cheered. They had saved their people. "We did it," Lisa said, smiling at Frank. The trial chamber was huge and cold. Frank Delgado, Heather Powell, and the other human captains sat at a long table. Across from them, 7 alien judges looked down from high seats. "You stand accused of violating Union Combat Code 347, said the head judge, a blue-skinned being named Zorn. "Using prohibited tactics, improvised weapons, and engaging in direct combat without authorization." Frank stood up. "We saved 2,187 lives. The Union forces would have been too late." "The method matters as much as the outcome," Zorn replied. "Your actions showed why humans must be restricted," a new voice spoke from the side of the room. "Perhaps we should understand why those restrictions exist in the first place." Everyone turned. The speaker was not human or like any common Union species. She stood tall with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Her name was Zelia, and she was their legal representative, assigned by the Union itself. "The court recognizes historian Celia," said Zorn, sounding unhappy. Celia approached the human table. "I have been studying your case. I request permission to show evidence from the Union Historical Archives." The judges whispered among themselves. Finally, Zorn nodded. "Proceed." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed beings that looked almost human, but with slightly elongated limbs and more angular faces. These are the Valkyrie, Zelia explained, a species that existed 300 years ago. Frank looked confused. Heather leaned forward, studying the image carefully. The Valkyrie were involved in the Great Galactic War, Zelia continued. After their home planet was attacked, they fought back using methods that shocked the galaxy. The hologram changed to show battles. The Valkyrie fought in ways that looked familiar to the humans. They used surprise attacks. They turned everyday items into weapons. They kept fighting despite terrible injuries. The Valkyrie nearly destroyed half the galaxy, Zelia said. They created weapons that attacked the mind, driving enemy species mad. They developed tactics that allowed them to defeat forces 10 times their size, Heather gasped. They fought like humans. Yes, Zelia said, and there is a reason for that. She touched a control, and new data appeared. Genetic analysis shows that humans share 92% of their DNA with the Valkyrie. The room went completely silent. The judges looked pale. Impossible, one judge whispered. The data is clear, Zelia said. Humans are either descendants of the Valkyrie or share a common ancestor. The Union has known this since first contact with Earth. Frank stood up angrily. You kept this from us? Why? Zorn's voice was quiet. Fear. Zelia nodded. The Union believed that if humans learned about the Valkyrie, they might embrace their heritage. The Valkyrie were the most effective warriors the galaxy has ever known. They were also the most feared. What happened to them? Heather asked. They became extinct after the war, Zelia said. Or so we thought. Perhaps some escaped to Earth. Or perhaps Earth was seeded by the same ancient species that created the Valkyrie. Frank looked at his fellow captains. So the combat restrictions were never about fairness, Zelia confirmed. They were about preventing the rise of a second Valkyrie-like force in the galaxy. The hologram changed again, showing side-by-side comparisons of Valkyrie and human battle tactics. The similarities were undeniable. Your actions at Alpha Centauri, Zelia told them, proved the Union's fears correct. A small human force defeated superior Draconid numbers using improvised weapons and unconventional tactics, just like the Valkyrie would have. The judges conferred quietly. Finally, Zorn spoke. This trial will pause for 3 days while the Council considers this information. The humans will remain in custody. As guards led them away, Frank whispered to Heather, They're not afraid of what we did. They're afraid of what we could do. Heather nodded slowly. And maybe they should be. But Frank wasn't smiling. We broke every Union combat restriction. They'll be waiting for us when we get back. Heather's face appeared on screen. I'll take full responsibility. No, Frank said. We all knew what we were doing. We all chose to do it. 3 days later, the human ships arrived at Earth space. A dozen Union vessels surrounded them immediately. Their weapons were locked on the human ships. Captain Delgado, came the cold voice of Admiral Vex. You and your crew are under arrest for violation of Union combat protocols. 3 days passed. The Union Council argued behind closed doors. Frank, Heather, and the other humans waited in comfortable but secure rooms. On the 4th morning, guards came for them. They were led to a different chamber. This one was larger, with hundreds of alien representatives watching from tiered seats. The full Union Council, Heather whispered to Frank. This is unusual. A tall, thin alien with skin like polished stone approached a central platform. This was High Counselor Vren, the head of the Galactic Union. We face an unprecedented situation, Vren said, voice echoing through the chamber. The Draconid forces have taken 12 systems in the past month. Our conventional tactics are failing. Images appeared around the room showing destroyed Union ships and burning planets. Yesterday we received this message, Vren continued. A Draconid face filled the main screen. Its scales were dark red, its yellow eyes cold. You cannot stop our advance, the Draconid said. Your forces are weak, your tactics are predictable. Surrender now or be destroyed. The room erupted in shouting and fear. Vren raised a hand for silence. "The Council has voted," Vren announced. "We will allow limited human military involvement." Gasps filled the room. Some representatives stood in protest. Vren continued. "A joint task force will be formed. Admiral Philos will command with Colonel Melissa Garcia as human liaison." Frank looked at Heather in surprise. Colonel Garcia was known for her brilliant military mind. She had been kept away from Union planning until now. "This is a desperate move," someone shouted from the crowd. "Yes," Vren agreed. "It is. But we are in a desperate situation." An hour later, Frank and Heather met with Colonel Garcia in a private room. She was a short woman with keen eyes and gray hair cut close to her head. "They're terrified of using us," Garcia said. "But they're more terrified of losing to the Draconids." "What are our restrictions?" Frank asked. "Many," Garcia admitted. "No direct command of Union ships, no weapons development, no independent operations." She smiled slightly. "But they're letting us advise on tactics." "That's more than before," Heather said. Garcia nodded. "The Draconids are moving toward Proxima Centauri. We deploy tomorrow." 2 weeks later, the Joint Task Force encountered the main Draconid fleet near Proxima Centauri. 30 Union ships faced 50 Draconid vessels. Admiral Philos, a tall amphibian alien, followed standard Union tactics. Ships in formation. Direct. Approach. Clear communication channels. It was a disaster. The Draconids predicted every move. Union ships exploded one after another. "We've lost 11 ships," a Union officer reported. "We should retreat." Philos looked at Colonel Garcia, who had been silently watching. "What would humans do?" he asked, quietly. Garcia stepped forward. "Give me tactical command." Philos hesitated, then nodded. "Granted." Garcia took the central position. "First, jam all standard frequencies. Switch to the backup system we installed." The crew looked confused, but obeyed. "Next, separate our forces, groups of 3. Scattered approach." Garcia pointed to the display. "And prepare the civilian transport ships." "The civilian ships are unarmed," Philos protested. "Exactly," Garcia said. "The Draconids will ignore them, fill them with mining, explosives, and send them drifting into the battle space." Philos looked shocked. "That violates Code 42. Do you want to win?" Garcia interrupted. Slowly, Philos nodded. Garcia continued giving orders. The Union forces broke formation. They attacked, from multiple angles. The explosive-filled civilian ships drifted into the battle. When Draconid ships got seed, the victory at Proxima Centauri made humans heroes for a short time. Union species that had kept their distance now approached with questions and cautious respect. Colonel Garcia was invited to speak at the Union Military Academy. Things were changing, then the Draconids changed everything. "Emergency transmission from Earth Defense Station," a Union officer announced during a strategy meeting. The screen showed a panicked human face. Massive Draconid fleet detected approaching Sol system. At least 100 ships. ETA 48 hours. The room went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The Draconids, humiliated by their defeat, were striking directly at humanity's homeworld. Admiral Philos stood quickly. "All available Union forces will respond. We can reach Earth in 6 days at maximum speed," an officer finished. Colonel Garcia slammed her hand on the table. "Earth will be gone by then." "I am sorry," Philos said, and he truly looked it. "We cannot move faster." Garcia looked at Heather and Frank, who were now part of the Joint Task Force. "Then Earth stands alone." Within hours, they were on a fast transport back to their home planet. When they arrived, Earth was preparing for battle. General Alan Reyes met them at the landing pad. He was a veteran of Earth's old wars from before the Union. His face was lined with scars and experience. "Welcome home," he said grimly. "We have 37 ships and the orbital defense platforms, not enough." "The Draconids have never attacked a world this directly," Frank said. "Why now?" Revenge, Heather suggested. We embarrassed them. Garcia shook her head. They want to make an example of us. Show the galaxy what happens to those who resist. General Reyes led them to a secure underground facility. Hundreds of military personnel worked at stations monitoring Earth's defenses. We've evacuated major cities, Reyes explained. Moved people. Underground, but if they break through our defenses, they will, Garcia said bluntly. Unless we try something they won't expect. Reyes nodded. I've been working on something. I call it Protocol Ragnarok. He showed them his plan. It was unlike anything in the Union combat manual. It broke at least 15 Union laws. This isn't just fighting, Heather said as she reviewed it. This is total warfare. Yes, Reyes agreed. We use everything. Every satellite becomes a weapon. Every communication network becomes a tool. We fight with everything we have. Frank looked uncomfortable. The Union will condemn this. The Union isn't here, Garcia reminded him. We are. For 2 days, they prepared. When the Draconid fleet arrived, Earth was ready. The battle began in space. Human ships fought bravely but were outnumbered. One by one, they fell. Then Reyes activated Protocol Ragnarok. Thousands of satellites changed orbit suddenly, creating a chaotic pattern that confused Draconid targeting systems. Earth's communication networks broadcast on all frequencies, jamming Draconid ship-to-ship communications. Phase 2, Reyes ordered. Orbital platforms that seemed like simple space stations revealed hidden weapons. They fired not at the Draconid ships but at space debris, creating clouds of fast-moving particles that damaged Draconid hulls. The Draconids pushed through, landing forces in several locations. But Earth had prepared for this too. Activate the mine net, Reyes commanded. This was the most controversial part of the protocol. Earth scientists had studied Draconid neural patterns. They created a signal that interfered with Draconid thought processes. Not enough to hurt them permanently, but enough to cause confusion and fear. The effect was immediate. Draconid ground. Forces became disorganized. Their coordinated attacks fell apart. 3 days of brutal fighting followed. Humans defended their world with a ferocity that shocked even the battle-hardened Draconids. They used tactics no Union species would consider. They turned their entire planet into a weapon. When Union reinforcements finally arrived, they found a battered but unbroken Earth. The Draconid fleet was in retreat, having lost 43 ships. Admiral Phelos surveyed the aftermath in stunned silence. What did you do? He asked Reyes. We survived, Reyes answered simply. Luz Garcia detonated them. The human tactics confused the Draconids. They couldn't predict the seemingly random movements. When they tried to communicate, Garcia's teams flooded their channels with conflicting information. 3 hours later, the Draconid fleet retreated. They had lost 23 ships. The Union had lost 17, but had won. On the command ship, the Union crew looked at Colonel Garcia with a mixture of respect and fear. You saved us, Admiral Philo said. But your methods are why you need us, Garcia finished for him. 2 weeks after the Battle of Earth, the Union Council called an emergency session. This time humans were not on trial. They were the main topic. Dr. Olivia Martinez now served as Earth's chief diplomat. She stood before the full council, facing hundreds of alien representatives. The room hummed with nervous energy. The human problem must be addressed, High Counselor Vren began. What we witnessed at Earth was disturbing. Olivia stepped forward. We defended our home. Nothing more. With methods that violated 63 separate Union combat laws, countered a thin, tall alien with skin like bark. The mine net alone breaks our most sacred principles of warfare. Union officials played recordings from the battle. Earth's transformed satellites creating chaotic patterns. Civilian networks repurposed for jamming enemy communications. The mine net disrupting Draconid neural functions. Most disturbing to the Council was footage of human soldiers. They showed a determination that shocked many Union species. Wounded humans continued fighting. Surrounded humans refused to surrender. Small groups coordinated with minimal communication, as if they could read each other's thoughts. "This is why we restricted humans in the first place," said Admiral Vex. "This confirms our worst fears about your Valkyrie heritage." Celia, the historian who had revealed the Valkyrie connection, now addressed the council. "Let us not forget why the humans used these tactics. They were alone, outnumbered, facing extinction. What species would not use every tool at their disposal? The difference," said Councillor Zorn, "is that most species cannot imagine such tools. Humans not only imagine them, they create them with minimal resources and deploy them effectively." A new recording played. It showed Union scientists examining captured Draconid soldiers after the battle. "They refused to talk about what happened on Earth," a scientist reported. "They show signs of what humans call psychological trauma. They fear facing human forces again." General Reyes, who had been sitting quietly beside Olivia, stood up. "You brought us into this union promising protection. When that protection failed, we protected ourselves. Now you fear us for doing what you could not." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives demanded human planets be placed under permanent Union control. Others suggested humans could be valuable allies against the Draconids. A few even wanted humans removed from the Union entirely. High Counselor Vren raised all four of his arms for silence. "We have examined the Valkyrie records more closely since the recent events." The room grew quiet. "The Union has always taught that the Valkyrie were monsters who nearly destroyed the galaxy," Vren continued. "But our research shows a more complex truth. The Valkyrie fought with such ferocity because their world was destroyed without warning or mercy. They were seeking justice, not conquest." Olivia looked surprised. This was not the history humans had been told. A Union analysis predicts that unrestricted human warfare could defeat forces 10 times their size, Vren said. "Our military experts believe that with full access to Union technology and no restrictions, humans would become the dominant military force in the galaxy within 50 years. The room fell silent again. For many species, this was their greatest fear. "And yet," Vren continued, "humans have shown remarkable restraint. Despite their capabilities, they fought only when attacked directly. They could have developed weapons far more terrible than those used against the Draconids." General Reyes nodded. "We don't want a rule that the vote took all day." Union species argued, pleaded, and threatened. Some walked out in protest. Others formed new alliances. By evening, the council reached a decision. High Counselor Vren faced the crowded chamber. Olivia, General Reyes, Colonel Garcia, and other human representatives waited tensely. After much debate, Vren announced, "The council has reached an unprecedented compromise." The room went silent. "Humans will be permitted to defend themselves and Union allies," Vren continued, "but under strict conditions. Human consultants will advise Union forces on strategy, but they cannot take direct combat command." Olivia and Reyes exchanged glances. This was more than they had before, but still restrictive. "In return," Vren said, "Earth will receive full membership rights in the Union, full technology access, equal trade status, protection guarantees." Murmurs spread through the room. Full membership was something Earth had been denied for 5 years. "Additionally," Vren added, "we are creating a new law, the Terran Combat Restrictions." He looked directly at the humans. "These will be the only species-specific limitations in Union law. They acknowledge both your capabilities and our concerns." Olivia stood. "What exactly do these restrictions entail?" A document appeared on screens around the room. It listed 23 specific combat methods that humans were forbidden to use without special authorization. The MindNet was first on the list. "We will need time to review this," Olivia said carefully. "Of course," Vren agreed. "But know that the alternative was much more severe. Many wanted your species placed under direct supervision." 3 days later, Earth's representatives signed the agreement. The Terran combat restrictions became law. Humans gained full Union membership, but with unique limitations on their warfare capabilities. 5 years passed. The Draconid threat slowly receded. Union forces, now advised by human consultants, won victory after victory. Eventually, the Draconids requested peace talks. In a quiet room far from the celebrating crowds, a Union researcher named Ilara interviewed a captured Draconid commander. The Draconid was old and battle-scarred. His red scales faded to dull orange. "Why did your empire finally surrender?" Ilara asked. The Draconid's yellow eyes narrowed. "You know why? The humans." "But humans were only advisors," Ilara said. "They never directly commanded our forces." The Draconid made a hissing sound that was their version of laughter. "That made no difference. We recognized what they truly are." "And what is that?" Ilara asked. "The only species that sees warfare as an art form," the Draconid replied. "Others fight for land, resources, or power. Humans fight with creativity, with innovation, like it is a dance or a game." The Draconid leaned forward. "We studied their history. For thousands of years, they mostly fought each other. They perfected warfare against themselves. When our forces faced their tactics, we knew we could not win a long war. Better to surrender than witness their full potential unleashed." Across the galaxy, human tactical advisors became the most sought-after military assets. Union species competed for their services, while maintaining careful protocols to ensure humans never gained unrestricted command. On the 10th anniversary of Earth joining the Union, Dr. Olivia Martinez, now serving as Earth's representative on the Union High Council, gave a speech. 10 years ago, the galaxy feared what humans might become, she told the assembled delegates. Today, they acknowledge what we have always been: protectors, innovators, and survivors. A young alien student approached her afterward. "Is it true," the student asked, "that the Terran combat restrictions are the only species-specific limitations in Union law?" Olivia smiled. "Yes. Some see it as discrimination. I see it as respect." "Respect?" the student asked, confused. "The most dangerous predators on Earth are handled with greatest care," Olivia explained. "The restrictions aren't just rules to limit us. They are the galaxy's admission of what humans truly are, the most effective warriors the Union has ever known, not because we are stronger or faster, but because we never ever stop finding new ways to fight." The student looked thoughtful. "That sounds terrifying." "It is," Olivia agreed. "That's why the law exists. Sometimes the most effective weapon isn't used, it's merely known to exist. E-galaxy. We just want to live in it. The question before us," Vren said, "is whether we can trust humans with their own power." Olivia stepped forward again. "The real question is whether you can afford not to." The Draconids continue to advance. Your conventional tactics continue to fail. You need what we offer. The council members looked at each other. Fear and necessity battled in their expressions. "We will vote tomorrow," Vren announced. "The fate of humanity's role in the Union will be decided then."